So if I had to summarize Sam Fennah's work in Amygdala, I would say that I'd have to congratulate the man because not only did he write over 24 characters, all distinctly, write a comprehensive, complex world around them, um, to in which to host a very well done political thriller. He also did it one-handed the entire time. So Amygdala starts horrifically. The first 2 hours of it, and I listened to it on audiobook, are inundated with far too much exposition to give the reader a safe, comfortable landing into the world of the book. It starts and stops and starts and stops and starts and stops about 3 or 4 times, and even then, the initial scene gets cut off multiple times with random exposition drops that happen in the middle of tense situations, completely killing any momentum that a reader would want. And then very quickly after, the author mentions that his characters reproduce via decapitating one another, and it is a very explicit thing. The body jizzes after decapitation. I want to like this book. I wanted to like this book because I wanted to like Satellite City. I'm a fan of Fennah's work, or at least I want to be. Back in about 2018, when he started coming out with Satellite City, I was watching it. I started watching his channel from that animation test he did for like his 3D model of Rabbit from Steam Powered Giraffe, because I was a huge fan of them at the time, and I was really hoping that he'd make more videos with that Rabbit model, but he never did. But he started working on his OCs, and I like OCs. I have a good chunk, and I liked that his designs were edgy and weird, kind of like mine. In my defense, I was a high school kid who spent way too much time on DeviantArt. I don't know his age, but he might have been too old to be drawing like that. But also, who am I to gatekeep that? I mean, come on, have fun with your designs. Have a little bit of levity. At least that's what I thought until the Bob episode. So he started working on Satellite City, and at that point, I still didn't know the characters well enough to really feel invested in the political story that he was building. And there were some episodes where I had to rewatch it a few times just to figure out what was happening because the information was so condensed and there were parts of the story and parts of the lore that I didn't know about. And it didn't flow. I didn't feel too invested. And then when he very poorly tried to have an episode talking about addiction or abusive relationships, um, and just completely failed to do that, he didn't do it poorly. He set out with a goal, absolutely did not meet it, and then decided it was everyone else's fault that they didn't catch the message that he failed to put in it. He had an episode where a character was taking care of I guess what you could best describe as a handicapped child, but the handicapped child was supposed to be a metaphor for drugs, so a character named Jesus, who I would bet dollars to donuts is the author's self-insert, throws this child in the fire at the end of the episode. And he explodes on camera, graphically, I guess humorously, I don't know. And then when other people, in the aftermath were like, what the fuck is that? He doubled down, called his fans idiots for not getting it, and then posted how his characters fuck via decapitation on his Amino, which, if you didn't know, is Reddit for little kids. Anyway, I wanted to like Fennah. I wanted to, as an artist, see someone who made weird art about weird characters and get success. But Unfortunately, it would seem that the people who write weird characters tend to be really weird people. And sometimes that weirdness means that they make weird decisions in the construction of a book and how to format it and how to set it up, what things to add, what things to have absolutely no shame or second thoughts in hiding. I have a theory that part of the reason why the first part of the book, I think, I have a note in here about it somewhere. Yeah. The first almost 2 whole hours are just constantly intercut with exposition that just kills the pace. The story starts first, I think, with an explanation that the author doesn't condone any of the weird stuff in the book, and then he explains what the world is like, stops that explanation, starts another. These two could seamlessly transition to each other. I may be misremembering. I want to give benefit of the doubt, but I'm a little bit hurt and offended by this book, so sorry. This book is just so gross that I just don't want to. Like, dude, you took 16 hours of my fucking life. Fuck you. Anyway. That's it. Stops that explanation, starts a new one about how the Kiva Society came to be, stops that explanation, starts another one. And we're in the book. Okay, more exposition. We're in the book. Okay, we're in the book. More exposition. Okay, here we go. The book. More exposition. It just goes on and on like that for about 2 fucking hours, and I don't think it relaxes until. I don't know. Another thing that takes a long ass time, and I said this in an earlier recording, but I don't remember if I said it here. Fennah is absolutely unable to cope with the idea that the audience might not have the exact same information that he does about his characters. And I get that, okay? I really do. Because when I design a character, I'm really proud of it. And if I decide to depict them in a written medium, I'm always disappointed that I can't accurately describe how the character looks to someone. So the version of, for example, a character like Doug Hawthorne that exists in my head might look different from how Doug Hawthorne looks in someone else's head. And that sucks that I don't have control over that. However, at the same time, taking a step back, wow, isn't that beautiful? Everyone creates an intimate connection with every piece of media that they read, and they have a different version of how it exists in their head. Per person, everyone has their own ideas, they bring their own experiences to the table, and, just fun things like that. But absolutely not, Sam Fennah needs to be in control of this narrative. God forbid you imagine Lucy Lacemaker at the wrong height. God forbid you don't know that Celia has 10 nipples. At 1 hour, 52 minutes, 35 seconds until 1 hour, 54 minutes, 32 seconds, Sam Fennah explains a character named Celia. Not her personality, just how she looks. That's 2 full minutes. This is not an outlier, unfortunately. This is part of the problem. In fact, it's so bad, I started keeping a tally at some point about how many times he just needlessly mentions someone's nipples or breasts. Always a female character, because the author is straight. God forbid you think he's gay. Um, you could... You couldn't. You... You could do a drinking game about how many times he mentions a character's tits or nipples, but you wouldn't survive. Partially because it's 30 fucking hours. And also because it happens so frequently. I started keeping a tally at like, I think 8 hours into the book, so I missed a bunch of mentions. But, you know, that would be remiss if you didn't also drink whenever decapitation was mentioned. And the problem with that is that a lot of the world building, is built around this decapitation thing. You could tell the story that this book tells without decapitation. Sam Fennah just chose not to. He just chose not to. Like, let me give you a summary of the book that doesn't at all mention decapitation. You live in a world with immortal creatures. It's survival of the fittest. Like, you live in a world of near immortal creatures. It's survival of the fittest. But they have come together over millions and trillions of years and created something of a society. And they are stuck in their ways. They have their methods, they have their habits, and it is survival of the fittest. But someone high up in politics doesn't like that that's the way of things. She's seen some horrors, she wants things to change, so she takes part in an underground drug trade that turns out to be the trade of medicine to assist the weaker in thriving. This goes against everything everyone knows. Characters of all walks of life take different stances, pick their sides, pick their parties, and society starts to really stress and fracture. And this is the story about watching what would happen in a situation like that. That sounds cool. Half of the locations in this book are explicitly about decapitation. Every fucking restaurant serves decapitated child corpses. Half of the events of the story take place in a dollhouse, or involving a doll, or being near a dollhouse. What's a dollhouse? It's a brothel where people get decapitated. A good chunk of the characters work as dolls, know dolls, are interested in dolls, want to be a doll, know a doll, hire a bunch of dolls, use the services of dolls. It keeps fucking coming up. There are a bunch of scenes where characters go to restaurants and they eat and they order a decapitated child. A lot of insults and banter and like casual slang are based around the fact that decapitation is part of their society. They call each other dollface or doll or rotters. Half of their furniture is decapitated bodies. If you drank every time there was a mention of decapitation, you wouldn't make it 3 hours into this book, depending on how you define mention. Because if you go by the broadest definition of mention, you would be drinking like probably every 3 minutes. My tally here, I tried to keep it to just explicit mentions of decapitation. But, you know, if the characters go on for 3 minutes talking about it, and it's not a scene where someone is being decapitated, do I count that? If someone talks about how someone else was decapitated in past tense, do I talk about that? If someone mentions how they want to be decapitated by someone, or how they want to decapitate someone else, do I mention that? What the fuck? You very much can tell this story without decapitation. Sam Fennah made the conscious choice to absolutely not do that, because it's his fetish. One thing else I'll say is that the audiobook version is really neat. he puts original orchestration in it. There's a lot of interesting background noises. It really gets you immersive into it. There is a musical segment. I think that's about... where is this? About an hour and 30 minutes in. I didn't like it, but it is impressive. I don't dislike it because, oh, why is this here? No, that took a lot of skill, that took a lot of coordination, that took a lot of thought, that took a lot of planning. Nice. I think the song could be written a little bit better. I didn't like the way it was sung, and the way it was implemented into the audiobook just felt a little bit... Yeah. It could have been executed better, but the fact that it was executed at all is impressive. I think that kind of is a good summary of the guy's body of work overall. Some other good things. Like I mentioned earlier, you need intrigue to tell a story well. You want people to be invested. You don't want to be like, oh, here's this cool thing. This is why it's like that, by the way. Just in case you're too stupid. Just in case you have no patience. I don't have faith in you as a reader. One thing that isn't explained for a good long time is walawa. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know. A lot of characters say it to one another. About 16 hours in, I kind of got the sense that it was something like, God will it, maybe? Something like that. Like, it was used emphatically as kind of a greeting or just kind of as a little comment. You know, you'd be like, in the middle of a conversation, someone say, wah, wah. You know, and I'd be like, huh? Someone used it while begging someone not to beat the fuck out of them, and I was like, so I think it means God will it or something like that, to that effect. I like that. I don't know what the fuck it means. It gives me the sense that these are characters who have a culture where they understand this, but I'm an outsider to it. I like that. That's good. I'm going to steal that. Oh, another cool thing. Celia is one of the characters in the book, one of the main characters, and she deals with severe paranoia. I think that's handled really well. I think that's really cool. That is a good choice to make. And I also feel like some aspects of it he may have learned from the thing with Bob, because he doesn't try to intellectualize or pathologize it. It's just, here's Celia, this is something she deals with, it's going to show up every so often. And it does show up every so often. And it affects the choices that she makes as a character. And she has to work around it. And you see her thinking about that. Very fucking good. I like that. You just say, I'm going to do this with a character. And you do it. And you do it good. And you know what? Fuck yes. That's the kind of shit that I want to see. But the problems still persist in the book. Another dead body jizzing. Yes. Can you tell? I like Crimson Rogue's videos, and I'm kind of doing this because I want to see Crimson Rogue do his own review of Amygdala. I don't wish this agony on that man, but I'm hoping that if there are enough reviews about this book out, he'll kind of get a whiff of it and be like, okay, fine, because, God, I'd love to see him chew on this book, because I know that he'll get a hardcover copy, and he's a lot better at literary analysis than I am. I don't do this as a hobby. I'm just doing this because I want to. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a guy who gets bored and then does things and puts them on his channel. And like, look at the other shit I made. What does that have to do with this? Nothing. This isn't a career, and this is just something I'm doing on my fucking Saturday night because I'm bored. But it's the difference between showing and telling. He keeps doing these things where he just pauses and says, now I know you didn't understand that. Let's explain it. And it just does that over and over. A reader asking, well, what is that, is not an issue that needs to be solved immediately. In fact, that is exactly what intrigue is. What makes sci-fi or fantasy popular. The mystery. Too much mystery and it becomes inscrutable. Not enough and the reader feels babied. And with a book as sexually charged as this is, that is absolutely not what you want. Unless that's your fetish or something. Oh, yeah. He keeps trying to explain architectural styles in the book. It just doesn't come across. I don't know, man. I don't know. He keeps explaining the song towers. There's this one scene where there's something called a maiden at like these bathhouses, and he pauses the scene to explain that maiden is a unisex term. You don't need to do that. You can just say, the maiden lifted his head. Boom. Cut out 3 sentences. This book doesn't need to be 30 hours long. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The gates. The gates. I think I only talked about this in my first recording, but there is a scene 3 hours in where some of the characters are traveling through something called gates, and he breaks the fourth wall to explain it. He says, now, dear reader, you may be confused by how this works, but don't worry, I'll tell you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Trust that your readers have read other books. Does he think children are reading this? Does he think little baby kids who've never read another fantasy or sci-fi book are reading his book full of decapitation fetish? I hope not. I hope the fuck not. I hope that's not why he wrote this the way that he did. But considering the fact that he had a fucking amino dog. A Reddit would make sense. Amino? Dude. Weird ass. Oh, God. There's not much else to say. I took a bunch of notes. You know, one that I do want to mention here is the character explanations, how the characters look. To give an example, one of my favorite book series, Secret World Chronicles, there's a character named Victoria Victrix. And when I first read the book series, I ended up skipping over one of the episodes in the early spot, because me and my family were listening to it as an audiobook in the car, so sometimes we'd accidentally lose our place. And I just always imagined Victoria Victrix as brunette. It was brunette, long hair, possibly in a bun or a ponytail or something like that. That's how I imagined her. And then I re-listened to it, and the first, I think 10 episodes, they don't explain too much about her appearance. They're just like, oh, white woman wears this kind of outfit, covered from neck to feet to wrists and whatnot. I was like, okay. And then in episode 10, they mention the short blonde woman. And then they confirm this short blonde woman is Vicky. And I go, huh? But you know what? As you can see, it didn't kill me. You can mention something about how a character looks, very briefly, and then wait until it's relevant to bring up another detail about their body. And if you've already, primed your audience by telling them that they're non-human with a bunch of weird body parts, it'll be kind of like an exciting little adventure when, a character pulls out, an 83rd arm, and you're like, wait, what the fuck it adds to that sense of these are aliens, mysterious creatures, like, who have anatomies, like, far beyond what we could imagine. You don't have to explicitly describe everything in detail. I get that he's probably used to working with visual media, where it's kind of, when a character shows up, you can see everything about them. That's something he's used to, and he doesn't know how to translate that experience into text. The trick? You don't. You can't. Stop trying. Do something else. Oh my god. Oh my god. And there's a scene about 4 hours in. 4 hours in, where two very complex characters are described. And it takes so long. I think it took about 5 whole minutes. But the pause to explain the design of the characters was so dense and so complicated that I couldn't figure out where these two characters were located. I was losing track of names because I was like, wait, how many horns? How many? Color? What color are his pubes? Why do I need to know that? Why is his dick out? And no characters have had their dicks out yet. But I'm not going to continue reading it to figure out if any of them do. Oh, and this comes on the tail end of when Lucy has finished going through puberty, which, that's another thing. Okay, I know I sound drunk. I'm not. I'm sober. This is just brain melting. That's why I couldn't fucking continue reading this shit, because it's like being in the fucking K-hole, man. You're just in there and you're just waiting for the next 5-hour character explanation and like an explicit scene of some character fisting the neck hole of a decapitated corpse as jizz sprays everywhere and little children get their heads cut off. I do not want to continue reading this fucking book. And if you're thinking about starting, do something pleasant instead. This is bad. This is bad. It's not worth it. The good story that exists in here is not fucking worth it. This is a poison dart frog, is what this is. This is a puffer fish, is what this is. This is Fugi, and ain't nobody in fucking Atlanta, Georgia, trained to take this fish apart. So don't you fucking dare plop that thing on your plate. You don't know where it's been. Like, my fucking god. I hate this book. I hate this fucking book. It's so bad. The main character, Lucy Lacemaker, goes through puberty halfway through the book, and you know how it's introduced? She's standing in front of a character that's kind of implied to be a crush. I don't know. She's kind of wishy-washy about it. And like another character comes in, and then she's like, I started feeling like hot and tingly all over my body, and this really weird sensation, and then my eyes rolled back, and I moaned, and I jizzed, and then I passed out, and then I woke up like a month later, and I had tits. Why is puberty erotic? Hey, Mr. Fennah, why did you depict puberty as an erotic situation in your book? Look, don't hit me with, well, in nature, things are different all the times. Did nature write the book? Did natural selection write the book? Were there evolutionary pressures that wrote the book? Did the Industrial Revolution put enough soot on the birch trees that the white ash moths started to be hunted, and the presence of white in their phenotypical experience
starting to be phased out because predators could see them better on the now darker birch trees. Did that happen to your book? No, you wrote it? Oh, then you made a conscious decision using your mind, your experiences, and your personality to choose to write puberty as an erotic experience. Can you explain that in a way that doesn't make you sound fucking insane? Do you want to give it a go? Fuck. Why? I stopped 16 hours and 30 minutes into this because I didn't want to see what was going to be turned into an erotic experience next. If it turns out I missed a fucking hilarious scene where the DMV is sexualized, let me know. But I highly doubt there's anything worth reading left in this book. And, it was just starting to get really interesting, where the members of Kiva Society realize that there are outsiders who are herbivorous, who don't actually eat members of their own kind. And I was like, wait a second, they don't have to? They don't have to. And that could have been really interesting. But I didn't want to find another fucking pube of Fennah's in my ear when I took out my earbuds from listening to his goddamn audiobook. You wrote porn, marketed it as, check out my cool alien political thriller. And then your only defense to criticism is, well, nature's just kind of weird and fucked up sometimes. I based it off of nature. In it, bruv. I based it off of nature. I did. I based it off of fucking nature. And, things can be cruel and weird. Okay, you're a fucking animal. And I hope you get put down like a fucking dog. Okay? I don't entirely mean that. I know damn well if Sam Fennah ever sees this review, he's not going to take any of it to heart. He's going to think, wow, what an interesting and entertaining critique of my work. Small-minded pea-brain. You're allowed to think that. I can't stop you from not listening, but I can talk around you and tell anyone else who sees this video, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. My rage, my upset, this is not comical, okay? I was having to take 2 or 3 day long breaks between hour-long listening sessions. This shit was gross. This shit was disgusting. It kept me up. Not because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get decapitated, but because I was like, I just feel icky. I felt gross. I will say, the writing in this book was good enough to give me some ideas for stories that I'm working on. It gave me the confidence I needed to say, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to work on projects. I'm going to take them to completion because if this freaky asshole can do it, so can I. He sparked a little bit of a revolution inside my heart. But I don't want to credit that to him in the same way that I don't want to credit the field of psychology to Freud. It's more of he inspired it because I was so incensed by his behavior that I wanted to prove him wrong kind of situation. Don't read it. Don't make anyone else read it. It's not good. If you want to read it, get a free version in any way you can. This guy's fucking weird. This guy... Ugh. Amygdala. Bad.